Gentlemen No Class is proud to be a part of the HC Universal Network. Gentlemen No Class is produced, mixed, and edited by M5 Studios.
This podcast contains explicit language and is intended for adult audiences. The views and opinions of Gentlemen No Class are strictly for comedic purposes and should not be taken literally. For instance, like this disclaimer. Now grab yourself a pint and enjoy.
And welcome to another episode of Gentlemen No Class. Let me switch the camera. No? Is it not going to do it for me? Fuck. God damn it. Piece of shit.
Tactic
There we
errors.
go.
All right.
Errors.
Okay, I'm going to have to fix that. I'm Rob. You can see that we are without
Leave it.
Jake tonight. And this loser over here. Yeah, okay, cool. That's Paul, the guy that just snapped his fingers. I don't know why
No,
the
it didn't.
switcher's not working. I need to fix this real
I
quick.
can hear the delay too.
No, you
Is that
can't,
I
because it was coming from my iPad because I
okay.
forgot to mute it
Okay.
again. So, on tonight's podcast episode is my cousin Sam. Sam, say hello.
Hello.
Sam is our resident Lord of the Rings expert. Actually, your whole family is kind of the Lord of the Rings expert. That's kind of like what we talk about every time we're together. Whenever there's like some new Lord of the Rings like stuff that's happening, it's always like, hey, what's going on with this? Have you seen this? Have you talked about this?
So your family gets in debates and stuff like that, or what?
Not debates, but yeah, if there's
Or like,
something.
it was, like together commonly you could go. Well, you had that. You know, you could talk about that subject.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
there's something, and I listen and read a lot to other like podcasts and things related to Lord of the Rings. So
Oh, okay.
sometimes hanging out with the family, I'm like, hey, and so I just heard something interesting recently.
Yeah, nice.
And they've even taken like not literal bets or anything, but they're like, oh, Sam's about to say something Lord of the Rings.
Oh, nice. Are you by any chance a Twin Peaks fan?
No.
Damn it, man.
Nobody's a fucking Twin Peaks fan.
Leave me alone. I just had to ask. I want to talk to people about Twin Peaks.
There we go. There we go. Now I got it working. All right.
All right.
We'll do a Twin Peaks episode one of these days. One of these
Don't
days.
worry about it.
You're like, nah.
Nobody's gonna watch that.
Why wouldn't anybody watch it?
I don't know.
All right. So on tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about the Lord of the Rings. Obviously, with the trailer that came out for the new Lord of the Rings episode, The Rings of Power. So I guess, like, where do we start with this, Sam? Like, for most people haven't read the books, right? So I'm assuming that you've read the books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's 5 books, right?
Depending on what you're referring
Let's
to.
see, here
Because,
we go.
yeah. So I guess to start out, we have the most important like periods of time in Middle Earth are three.
Talk into the mic like
Right.
that.
Okay. Are
There you
three
go.
ages. There's times before that, but that was mostly due to like occupied by the deities, if you will. Like
Gotcha.
they're referred to as the Valar and the basic like magical beings that are known as Ainur. But when it comes to the first age, that is when the elves are awoken and all the other they start waking up other creatures. Anyway, so that's the first age. There's the second age, and then there's the third age. The first age ends. So referring to the books,
So let's reference like where most people know. So like most people know the events of the third age.
yeah.
They know because the third age starts at the end of the first War of the Ring, when Sauron gets the ring cut from his hand by Isildur.
Yeah.
Right? So
Yeah.
and then it ends with the ring being destroyed by Frodo when he like drop kicks Gollum into the lava at the end of Return of the King.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. So that's what most people that's all the Lord of the Rings books and the Hobbit book take place in the third age.
Third
so
age,
the Lord of the Rings, the Rings of Power, is solely focused on the Second Age.
The Second Age.
All right,
Yeah.
so let's reference like what happens in the First and Second Age.
So yeah, and that's where like because the First Age is mostly described in the Silmarillion, and that
And what is that?
That's how you pronounce that?
yeah, that's the Silmarillion.
Okay. I just call it some. I can't even attempt to do it.
I do too. I
With a
call it
note.
the Silmarillion.
yeah. Yeah, there you go. Something like that.
Fair enough. So that kind of it basically sets the stage for what's going to happen later on because like the First Age is dominated by the elves. The elves are like the most important beings on the planet. They're sort of like the political leaders of they're the ones
like
that
princesses or just like it's like upper like to me it's like high society. Or just intellectuals and the people that kind of paved the way or leaders of the world and I don't know.
Exactly.
It could be maybe a commentary or something like that JR was maybe I
Yeah.
don't know in his perspective. I don't know, just a thought.
I could get into that a little bit, but,
But-
I'll just like to
Diving off,
probably
sorry.
is a good point just to start before I go any further because there was that episode of South Park that came out recently. If anybody has seen that, where they
Reference it, man. I haven't seen it personally,
No, me
but
neither. I don't think so.
well, so there's an episode where they're talking about Token,
Okay.
and that his name is actually Tolkien.
Oh,
Not Token. He's not Token
Nice.
Black. He is Tolkien. And anyway,
Oh, the black kid character on South Park. His name is Tolkien,
Yeah.
but his name's Token.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it's
So
always goes by
the South
Token,
Park
yeah.
creators like did a little backtrack, and they're like, no, we're not gonna call him Token Black anymore. We're calling him. He is named after J.R.R. Tolkien.
Oh, okay, so his name on the show is actually Tolkien.
Tolkien, yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
And what the and so I'm only to what you said, Paul. Like it's yes, Tolkien, the author, would have been influenced by things going on in his life, and he was well aware of things, and he would be sort of
He was a big Christian too, wasn't
oh
he?
yeah.
Him and C.S. Lewis were buddies, weren't
yeah.
they?
Yeah, and so
C.S. Lewis wrote the
Yeah.
Chronicles of Narnia.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
And so a
I've
lot-
heard of C.S. Lewis. I just didn't know he was from
So,
anyway.
the thing is just there's a lot of things that could be, okay,
There you go.
could be like unintentionally put into his stories because Tolkien made it very clear at the beginning of Lord of the Rings. He has a little like prologue, like beginning note. None of it is meant to be allegory. So all that, like,
okay.
yeah, the elves are kind of like this, imperialistic.
Yeah.
Like they have their there's even when we get into the Second Age, there's even more like imperialism going on. But that's not because he was equating it to the British Empire or to the
Right.
Americans or anything like that.
Yeah.
He was just saying like
It's
he's
just
just
yeah.
naturally
From what he
influenced
knows and just exactly from the
Yeah,
influence
yeah.
from that, from just history in general. I would
so
assume,
so getting back to that so the Second Age is kind of like the elves are still dominant, but humans are kind of taking a leading role at this point. And
Okay.
and so like the setting of this new show is going to be on the island of Numenor, which is kind of like the origin for like Tolkien created he tried to apply it to real world mythology, I guess, by saying that Numenor is sort of like Atlantis. It's there are these great like inventors and explorers and everything. All the
Okay.
stories that we have about Atlantis being like this
Folklore,
wonderful
man.
like civilization above anybody else of their time, that would be Numenor. Because elsewhere in Middle Earth, and Middle Earth is where the Third Age mostly takes place, and that's all, where the hobbits live, where Rohan is, where Gondor is. All those people are, at this time, in the Second Age, they're less developed, we should say. Like I said, there
Gotcha.
are...
Because I mean, let's give a time span here. So we're talking in the third age takes place. They're not all equal lengths of periods of time either, right? So the Third Age is 1,500 years. No, it's longer than that.
Yeah, much longer.
It's like 2,500 years.
Maybe
Because Galadriel says in 2,500 years the ring passed out of thought and sight. So Isildur had the ring for 5 to 10 years before he died and lost it, and that happened at the end of the at the end of at the beginning of the third age.
Yeah, the beginning of the third age.
And then the third age ends with Frodo drop kicking Gollum in the lava.
Yeah.
But in the Lord of the Rings movies, like if you've only seen the movies, it seems like that takes place over like the course of like a week or maybe a month. But like really, like it takes place over the course of like 2 years, doesn't it?
Well, no, the story of like Frodo traveling, that was about a year. A year and some.
I thought he was spent a year just getting out of the Shire.
Well, yeah. So when he finally gets out of when they leave Rivendell, yeah, that's like a year.
Okay.
But everything because like when Bilbo has his birthday party, there's 11 years between. No, more than that because Bilbo turns 50. Sorry. Bilbo turns 111 when Frodo turns 33.
Yeah, it's 60 years later.
Yeah,
right?
and then when Frodo turns 50, so now we're talking 50 minus 33. So anyway, like years later is when he finally leaves the Shire.
Yeah.
When he's 50, and it's kind of like a callback because Bilbo was 50 when he went on his journey in The Hobbit.
Gotcha.
And so Frodo kind of just had this feeling. He was like, I really shouldn't leave now. I should wait until the time is right. And so the time was right when he was 50. So the
50.
Yeah, the movies condense it to like it happens like the same night. But, I mean, like in the movie, like because I watched it again today, like Gandalf travels to Gondor and then to Isengard, and that's a long way to go. You know what I mean? Like it takes them a month to go almost that far to like you know what I mean? So like
I wonder if he had a lot of food with him.
Wizards don't need food.
Middle Earth fantasy, you don't need food. All you need is your bread. What's that bread? That
Lembas
bread.
Lembas
bread.
Yeah.
Fucking wrapped in that like banana leaves or some shit or
Malorn.
Oh, excuse me. Thank you for correcting me.
Oh, there's so much detail into the world. Like, but you're fine.
Yeah. Like, well, my thing is like the age is for them. What's the average lifespan for a Hobbit? It's like it's over they go to like 150. What is it?
Some of them did get to about 150, but that is like a rarity. That's like normal human getting up.
Yeah,
to
so like
100.
So to 50 to them to us would be like maybe like their 30s or something like their 20s maybe really.
So that's why I was saying because like Frodo when he turned 30, like it was such a important moment for him because 33 for hobbits is their coming of age. So it's a little bit older. It's still older than like a 13-year-old.
Sure.
But it's still kind of like so when they're in their 20s, they're considered kids basically. They're like they're 20 when they're in their 20s. They call that weird, they're tweens because it's like they're like this is when you get to act up and just be like a little goofball.
Gotcha.
Go fucking nuts.
Yeah. And I mean, but the lifespans of just people and like men. I guess a regular man has a regular lifespan, but like Aragorn is one of the race of the Duodyne, so has long age. So because he's almost 90.
Yeah,
in the Lord of the Rings in the books,
and that's really great tie-in to what's going on in the Second Age because only men from Numenor were granted this long life because of their ancestry.
So this is going to take place all on a completely separate continent.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so these people, these Numenorians, have like this kind of gift that they have a gift of longer life. They're just a little more like they're kind of connected to the elves in a way because that's actually their ancestry. The rulers of Numenor are descended from like a union between man and elf. So like Aragorn and Arwen weren't the first to do that. It only happened rarely before them too. It was only, but that is kind of this like so they have this the leaders of the Numenorians and by default like the followers of the kings of Numenor, they all have this kind of special longevity where they can live a couple hundred years. That was the thing. Like the kings of Numenor could be like 400 years old.
Oh wow! Okay,
nice.
Yep.
I meant to tell you, I forgot. Like 2-3 years ago, I wrote something that really inspired me from The Hobbit. Fucking Azog, the Defiler.
Yeah.
I wrote something. I meant to get. I don't know. I was gonna say I was gonna give it to you. Maybe you could put it into the podcast or whatever. But it's like over a minute or so. I don't know.
If you didn't bring it with you tonight, it's not going nowhere.
Oh man, I'll just put my phone on the speaker. They're good enough.
God damn it! Don't do
no,
that.
though I know. I will though.
I mean, I'll plug it in and play it if it's really that big of a deal.
No,
like,
don't worry about it. But I just thought it was, like I don't know what I was just saying that because it just. I was watching it one time and I was just getting high. I was just fucking like I took some Adderall too, so it was like an 8-hour binge of just writing music, and I just spent 8 hours in my room writing Azog the Defiler,
jerking off,
edging,
ordering Little Caesars,
it was fun. But then those 8 hours went by fucking like it just didn't seem like 8 hours, it seemed like minutes.
Well, when you love what you do, you never work a day in your life.
And that's like 2 of the fucking Hobbit movies. If you were watching like the extended versions,
it's so fucking
it's not
long,
even
man.
all 3 of them.
I know the first one's like almost 4 hours fucking long.
Well,
it's like 3.5 hours.
I was telling Sam before you got here that I was watching the movies.
Sam, sorry.
I was watching the movies while I was working, and I watched the Fellowship of the Ring extended edition, and I got halfway through the Two Towers extended edition. That's 6 hours worth of movies.
Did you know it used to be called Twin Towers?
No,
it
was never called.
It was never
called
done it?
No,
it was never.
I thought they changed it. Never mind. Because it came out. Well, it came out after 9/11, and it made a big
book came out way before
Yeah, but
that.
I thought it was actually called Twin Towers, but
no.
maybe it was some bullshit because it was just around that time anyway. So I'm sorry.
It was always called the Two Towers.
Okay. Fuck you.
All right.
That is awesome. The connection there though when it came out, but totally coincidental.
Yeah. All right, so now we're talking about the Second Age. So how long is the Second Age?
I know people who would be able to answer that, but I don't know.
Okay,
it's just thousands of years. We'll just say that.
Okay, so thousands. This is not events.
So average every age is what 2,000 years.
It depends.
It doesn't like I can't.
An
tell
age
you
is defined just by I guess whatever
by the
whatever's
events.
going on in events. Okay,
it's defined by a major event.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha.
Yeah, so like
dick,
the Second Age. The Second Age starts with. Well, I don't know what starts the Second Age.
I'm pretty shit at this, and anybody who might be listening who is like a follower of Lord of the Rings would be like probably like smacking their head against the wall right now, because it has to do with the end of the end of the First Age deals with the War of Wrath, I think, or one of the wars. I know there's a war of the gods, the Valar.
Yeah.
Battling Melkor, who is like the greatest enemy of all.
Right.
And
Let's start there. All right. So like, if we're not going to jump into the like, we don't need to get directly into the First Age, but I think there's some key points that need to be gone over are things like Sauron, who's the bad guy from the Lord of the Rings series, is not the big bad. Like, he's really an underling of
good question.
So there, like, let's go over this whole hierarchy of like who the Maiar are, kind of explaining like because that will explain kind of, if you didn't already know, like how the role of the wizards and what their job was and who they are and how Gandalf is able to die and come back, because he's not, it's kind of a different relationship, right? In the Tolkien verse or whatever. So kind of go over the hierarchy of starting with like the gods and what they're called and who they are.
Yeah. And so that's a good point, because to man, they are like sometimes referred to as gods, but to the elves, because they like lived with them, they didn't think of them as gods. They were like, oh, they're just the higher power.
Okay.
And so those are the Valar. The Valar are what, as we, would be the gods. And then there are a subgroup of them who are sort of their like lieutenants, they're like helpers. Those are the Maiar. And among the Maiar are spirits like Gandalf, Saruman, Sauron, the Balrog. All those are Maiar. And the funny thing about the wizards, they don't actually come into the story until the Third Age. So this show, the Amazon series, there shouldn't be any wizards.
Really?
Because they only came in on the Third Age.
Yeah, because they were sent to Middle Earth with a mission.
Yeah, to help man.
Where the hell did they come from?
They were sent by the Valar. They were sent by the Valar to help
Valar?
man. They're like the gods.
Yeah, the gods.
Okay.
Dude, you have to pay attention. We're not backtracking because you're fucking clicking on your pen.
Oh, I'm trying to take notes here.
No, you're not.
Fuck you.
All right,
Go on.
Continue, Sam.
And all of these, like, because they can't actually be called gods because there is the one power, which is Eru Iluvatar. But we won't get into that. Well, so that does enter into what's going on in this series potentially. I don't know what the series is going to go for. Okay. But I likely.
Slightly sidetracked. My thing is, I'm anticipating. I can't wait to watch it. I'm so used to Peter Jackson's filter of what we know, like how that looks like, right? You understand? All of us do, and it's gonna be like a weird transition, it is what it is. Because is he involved in any way?
As far as I know, no, not at all.
Okay, so somebody else. Okay, either way, so it's gonna be a different, perspective, and like however they're. I don't know if they're gonna whatever they're gonna do. That trailer doesn't reveal that much, but. I'm just ready for a drastic change. Like I'm so used to the films, and then this show is like, it should stand on its own either way.
Oh, yeah.
It shouldn't replicate that, but it just being a pretty big fan, it's just gonna be kind of a weird.
Yeah, it's gonna
transition.
It's gonna be totally different, and I think that like that point that I was saying that wizards aren't gonna be there. So one of the most iconic images that we have of both The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings is Gandalf. He's been tying all of these movies together. He's one of the few recurring characters. He's not going to be there. Now, going back to like some of the recurring characters, we will have Galadriel. She's been in all of the movies, or at least in the Fellowship and the Hobbit movies.
Yeah, and she's going to be in the show.
She will be in the show. This is a shot of some of the characters from the show. That were cast, and we'll get into some of this casting in a minute. But Galadriel is the one on the left. She's the blonde elf queen.
Yep.
She was played by Cate Blanchett in the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings.
Oh, she's so sexy.
There we go.
Oh, baby.
She is beyond sexy.
Oh
we'll get into some of these
skin.
casting decisions in a little bit because there's some controversy. From the Tolkien fanboys.
So going to the Second Age, like that that relationship of like you have the Valar and the Maiar were more involved with the elves in the First Age. Now it's the elves kind of leading the men in the Second Age to sort of like ennoble them, like teach them, like, and this is why the Númenóreans are so special at this point.
Okay.
Because they've learned so much from the elves, who learned so much from the Valar. And so the Númenóreans are supposed to be this great people. And actually, like I said earlier, Tolkien kind of used the mythology of Atlantis to sort of inspire Númenóreans. But he also, lead on to what happens toward the end of the Second Age, where they become very corrupt and like just kind of greedy people. He uses
men, right? You're
the men.
Some tribes of men, because not all men, because they're split into different factions.
Yeah, and
there's men of the North, men of the West.
Well, and that's the thing. So the men of the West are the Númenóreans, the Dunedain.
Okay,
that's Aragorn's people.
Right.
So he's a descendant of them.
So the people from Gondor and Rohan are descendants of men of the West.
The people of Gondor, most of the people of Gondor are. The men of Rohan come from. They were never part of Númenóreans.
Okay,
they're like the northern.
But the northern men were evil men, and men from the east were evil. If you want to think of it that way, they kind of when you talk about like the War of the Ring, like when you talk about the battle that's in Return of the King, it's kind of a split faction, right? It's what they refer to as men of the men of the West is the Gondorians and Rohan.
Yeah, and so the problem with that, like that's the terminology for the Third Age. In the Second Age,
gotcha. Okay.
The Second Age, the men of the West are Númenóreans. All other people are just people on Middle Earth.
Okay,
and those can be divided up among North, South, East, and West. But the Western like the men of the West are Numenorians.
So, and there's 9 tribes of men in the Second Age.
Perhaps.
Well,
that's good. I didn't.
There's
even,
9 kings. I mean, there's 9 rings for the race of men, so there's 9 kings, right?
Not necessarily.
No?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, because they also like would have come about like various times.
Okay.
In Tolkien's literature, and only in his like supplemental literature, he names 2 of them, but like we don't really have names of the 9 ring wraiths. We just know that they are men. And they would have originated during the Second Age, which, like I said, could be thousands of years. So they wouldn't have known each other. So yeah, they could be 9 kings, but that doesn't necessarily like they're just a king over there, a king over here. Some of them were also like sorcerers, like they were dabbling in whatever they could. So they're not necessarily connected. They weren't a part of the same time period. Other than the Second Age, they could be like hundreds of years displaced.
Okay. So, like the main theme of this show that's being called the Rings of Power is obviously the Rings of Power, right? So, we're talking 3 Elvish rings, 7 Dwarven rings, and 9 rings for men, and then the Ring of Power that Sauron creates in secret.
Yeah.
So, like, I guess I never like looked at the timeline of it, but this happens. He gives the rings out over not all at the same time. It wasn't like something that happened over the course of like 10 years. It was like he started dropping rings like every couple of years whenever he got the chance.
Well, and there is some like a discussion among like Tolkien communities, like how many of these rings, because it was only mentioned, I can't remember where, but it's mentioned that like lesser rings were made. Kind of maybe as like practice rings or something, like who knows? Who knows how many they were? Who knows how powerful they were? But the thing was, and like kind of going back to like the gods and everything, in the elves, like so one of the elves is Celebrimbor, who I think will be a really prominent role in the series because he teaches people how to make rings.
Oh, okay.
so he creates the rings. He creates the 3 elven rings, and at the time there is a human king, Ar-Pharazôn. But, maybe the show will bring him in. I don't know. But anyway, so there is a human king who captures Sauron. There's a whole war and everything. He captures him, and he says, like, I defeated this guy.
And Sauron's not as powerful and as badass as he is in the Lord of the Rings series at this point, right? Like, he's kind of...
Maybe, potentially you could say that he's actually more powerful in the Second Age. Yeah.
Okay.
So because this is a big element, is that he can appear fair, is how he's described. He can appear like he's a good guy. Ooh. And so when he gets captured,
that's a good strategy.
Which is
front.
Yeah, and so one of the things is like, did he actually get captured or did he let himself get captured? Yeah. So he gets, he's in Mordor, he gets captured, quote unquote. Yeah. And then he's brought back to Numenor, and so he starts creating this cult of Melkor. And we were talking about the Valar and everything. Melkor was the most evil. And so he creates this cult, and now there's like human sacrifices. There's like all this evil shit going on.
So hold on, wait. So, Sauron, I thought he was just dark matter, or not? What is he like? I didn't like a physical form.
Yeah.
So
okay, in the Second Age, he's because in his Third Age, he's
just the eye. He can't take physical form.
Right. Okay. So he's gonna be actual physical form in this one. Oh,
yeah, because at the end of the Second Age in the War of the Ring, and the Lord of the Rings, the Fellowship of the Ring starts off explaining this. There's the War of the Ring. Sauron is spreading evil across the land, and that's when Isildur, the son of the king, cuts the ring from Sauron's hand, separates Sauron from the Ring of Power.
Okay,
that's like kind of disembodies Sauron because his life force is tied to the ring. So when they're separated, he basically loses his power, a la Voldemort from Harry Potter kind of things.
Similar, but like to add to a creepy element of all this, like there is a moment in the books where Gollum describes his torture, and like the reason that Sauron knows the name Bilbo and Shire is because Gollum was being tortured, and Gollum does say the Black Hand. It's like, so Sauron does have enough physical form in the Third Age to physically torture somebody. Oh. And so that's pretty creepy. But yeah, no, he does lose his ability to really like appear in a physical.
God, that's so fucked up, man.
And it's because of what the events in the Second Age. Because at the end of the Second Age, the entire island of Numenor, much like the story of Atlantis, sinks into the sea. And at that time, Sauron loses his ability to ever appear like a good guy ever again. So
is that his fault that it happened? Like he caused that? Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying. So he creates this cult of Melkor. Everybody starts like killing, doing human sacrifices, and he's convinced the king. He's like, "Hey, these elves live forever. Why can't you? Why can't people? Why can't be?" And so so humans think that they can have this ability that is not granted to them by the greater god, by Iluvatar. Like they're not the gift of death is humans' gift. Elves can't die, and they actually are sad about that. They're like, we have to remember all the horrible things that have happened for thousands of years. Yeah. We have to remember that shit. Holy crap, we want to just die and forget it. But no, like
terrible, you're right.
Yeah. But no, humans they get that sweet release. But they also are jealous and envious of the elves who can live forever, seemingly. So
I mean, they can die. Obviously, you can kill them, but they don't age. I mean, they age to a certain extent, and then they kind of stop.
Yeah,
or slow down because I mean, there are elves that look older than younger elves, but like they slow down aging.
Right? Yeah.
Can they hide that too? Or
can you hide it?
No. Can they hide their age?
What with like
No, I was thinking. Well, no, because in The Hobbit, who's that fucking? I don't even know his name. The let's just say the king elf.
Elrond.
Maybe it was that or I don't know. Like it shows him like he's really like disfigured. But he's hiding it, but like you know what I'm talking about. Like it reveals like what he really looks like.
That's Lee Pace's character.
Yeah, that's Thranduil.
So yeah.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Like I don't know. They have like they can. That's what he really looks. I was confused in that scene. Like, is that what he really looks like, and he's hiding it, concealing it?
That's a good question. But that is entirely Peter Jackson. There's nothing about that.
Okay, so that was him doing. Okay, that's just him saying, "I'm gonna fuck with this."
I mean, yeah, and that's totally cool. If like people want, like that's obviously like part of Peter Jackson's headcanon. So if other people want to see elves as like something that they can like, they can reveal their truth, like their actual age, and then they hide it. Yeah, you can. But
interesting.
In the way the story is constructed by Tolkien, it's they appear fair and grow.
Yeah.
They age very
nice.
slowly. Yeah.
Okay, so we have Sauron has the cult of Melkor going on. He's convinced the king like now, so the men are kind of pushing back against the elves, and so we're creating some animosity there. Where do the dwarves play into this, and where did their origins come from?
Ooh, and that's a really cool one because they were created like so the great creator Iluvatar created the elves and men, and he called them the firstborn. Like the elves are the firstborn, men are the secondborn. There was another guy who created dwarves. He was one of the Valar. And he was just like, hey, I know that these beings, these elves and men, are going to be created. I really want to create something too. And he just loved that idea. So he created dwarves with a misunderstanding of what the situation was. And Eru was like, you can't do that. But he said, let's just wait. Anyway, there's a whole story about that in the Silmarillion. I won't go into that. The point is, dwarves did originate totally differently than the elves and men.
Okay.
Which kind of explains why there might be some animosity or like a challenge for them to
be accepted and kind of things.
But in this case, Celebrimbor, who's the guy who's like teaching how to make rings and everything,
right?
He becomes great friends with this dwarf called Narvi. And they're the two of them together make and this you might recognize from the Lord of the Rings, the gate Moria.
The West Gate.
Yeah, it's like speak friend and enter. That's because Narvi and Celebrimbor were friends.
Right.
So Narvi would be one of the great dwarves that this show could possibly introduce.
Well, you don't think they'll introduce Durin? Because I mean, Durin was then he founded what wasn't called Moria at the time, because
Right.
Moria means black pit.
Yeah.
It was called that after the orc invasion and when the Balrog was discovered. But when they unearthed the Balrog.
Khazad-dûm.
Khazad-dûm.
Is the,
Khazad-dûm.
yeah.
So you don't think that they'll introduce like when they start building out? Well, I mean, there's a lot of lore between the different factions of dwarves and the Iron Hills and the Blue Mountain, because I mean, and all of that happens.
I just didn't realize how much there is.
There's so much, man. It's just
based
all
on what you
fleshed
guys
out.
are saying. Like that's a fucking lot.
It's a lot.
Yeah, and
a lot of source material.
Yeah, I'm trying to condense, and it's hard to. But the thing with like Durin, like there's probably going to be a Durin because everybody's at some point named Durin. But the
There's
original
7 Durins.
Son of Thrain.
yeah,
Son of
the original
fucking-
Durin was probably born in the first age, so he's not gonna like the first original Durin is probably not gonna be, because like the families of the dwarves have already been established by this second age.
Okay.
They're already doing their thing.
But they're already on Middle Earth.
Yeah,
then.
yeah.
Okay, so how do they get to Middle Earth from Numenor?
They were not on Numenor.
Okay, so when do the elves and the men come from Numenor to Middle Earth?
Okay, so Numenor
Or the dwarves and the orcs alone on Middle Earth?
No, because Numenor was sectioned out specifically for these people. At the end of the first age, after the war and everything like that, there were certain men who were granted, this gift of like special longevity, and they were given this land of gift. They were given Numenor to live on, and they created this great empire. There were already men, elves, and dwarves, and orcs, and a bunch of other things living in Middle Earth.
Got it.
It's just that Numenor, I guess, is still part of Middle Earth, but it's its own island, and so that was only for special men.
Special men, you say? Special
Yes.
men, yeah.
Back your hand up a little bit. Nobody can. The camera can't focus that close, dummy.
But
Paul's hand says, "Help me."
yeah,
What's it said?
Rob is
It's-
gay.
You just smeared it all over your hand, dumbass.
With the question mark.
Hey! I think you got something right on it. You just.
Just leave it.
But no, so there are men, dwarves, elves, and evil creatures like orcs and other things already living on Middle Earth.
Okay.
It's just that the Numenorians are the special kinds
Got it.
who
All
get to live on Numenor.
So we've got to flesh out all of this stuff that happens in the Second Age, like all the way from this building of Sauron's army, like him settling into Mordor, and does he create orcs and goblins, or?
That all happened in the first age.
Okay, so all that's already
Nasty
established.
fuckers.
We're not
Yeah,
seeing
yeah.
the origins of any of that kind of stuff.
Nasty fuckers.
Yeah, yeah. And the only new kinds come around in the third age when
the
Saruman
Uruk-hai,
and yeah.
Crossbreed the goblins and
Yeah.
the orcs together.
Yeah.
All right, so
Yeah.
what are some of the other significant events that we're planning on going to be seeing in the Second Age?
Now, hold on a minute. Before you answer that,
Yeah, go ahead.
Are you basing this off the trailer or what you know from like articles or what's revealed like publicly?
No, that's a good thing because
Like what are you basing this off of? Like I know you asked him that. I'm just curious. Like,
Oh, okay,
where you're sourcing from that? I'm just curious.
No, and that works. That'll kind of like answer both your questions because the series is like there's an article out. So first of all, my knowledge. I've read a lot and I've listened to a lot and I know a lot already. So I'm not
Mr.
basing this.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so I'm not basing this on the trailer, but the trailer and the subsequent like articles and everything that came out from it have pointed out that these thousands of years and these major events that happened throughout the Second Age are going to be condensed because this is a visual medium. It is a TV series that people want to watch in however many seasons, like 3 or 4 or whatever.
And so have fucking patience,
right?
And,
yeah, they're not going to try to tell a story that lasts thousands of years.
Just let David Lynch do it. He would do it fucking great. He can drag the fuck out of all of that.
Well, you don't need to drag it out. There's enough. You could probably write the story and drag it and have 5 or 6 seasons of this.
And this is kind of like going back to what we were talking about with the Fellowship of the Ring.
He likes to drag scenes out sometimes. Anyway, go on.
But what we were talking about with the Fellowship, there's a huge period of time that Frodo and was supposed to be staying in the Shire before he went on his adventure.
Right.
And the filmmakers were like, we can't have 13 years of him just dicking around. Like we gotta expedite some things. And so this Amazon series is going to do the same kind of, like, it's for a visual medium. It's going to be like, we're going to condense things because we don't want, and arguably, if you've seen like the Vikings show, they condensed about like 300 years of Viking history into a couple of seasons. So that, like, it's not unheard of.
I mean, like, how does,
I guess the juicy parts basically.
You've been on a couple of different podcasts, and you've got buddies that do Tolkien podcasts. And stuff like that, which are, why don't you go ahead and name drop your Tolkien podcast buddies or whatever?
Yeah. So here in Houston, there are these 2 guys called Chad, both Chads, Chad Bornholt and Chad High.
You say, all right.
Yeah. Chad High and Chad Bornholt. They do a Texas Tolkien podcast talk. Sorry, Texas Tolkien Talk podcast. They like to use the alliteration there.
There you go.
And it's very much like this. They just want to like hang out with anybody who has any kind of question, any topic that they want to discuss about Lord of the Rings. They can just message them, Texas Tolkien Talk podcast, and they'll like bring them. The Chads will bring them onto the show, and they can talk about anything, either like really in depth, like what we're kind of doing, or something just really generic, like...
Are they open to just talking shit about it?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's what this podcast is about.
This is not a shit posting podcast.
Yeah,
they still do love the story.
It's an acknowledgement. You just haven't acknowledged it. That's what we are. I mean, I'm sorry.
No, that's what you do.
Yeah, you're right.
This is not a forum.
Yeah.
This is not Reddit. Like, you come on here to fucking shit post is what you're doing.
I don't shit post. I just like to fucking point things out and laugh at them.
That's shit posting.
Call it what you wanted, but I don't.
The Chads will like to poke fun sometimes, but no, they still love the material.
My thing is I shit on it because I love it. That's what I do.
Yeah.
It's not because I hate it. Like I love it, but just at the same time I just want to shit on it, just like everything I do. Whatever.
Yeah, makes total fucking sense.
Yeah.
All right.
But paradoxal. Fuck you.
There's a couple other ones that you've hung out with, guys right, that do other Tolkien podcasts.
Yeah, these guys are their podcast is called the Prancing Pony Podcast.
Ooh,
and they're like
name.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Prancing Pony Podcast.
Prancing Pony Podcast.
Again with the alliteration.
Again.
Fuckers, man. Are they an alliance? Is there some kind of alliance with Tolkien fucking podcast? Your name has to have a, you're saying a fucking, oh, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Well, Tolkien liked his alliteration too, so that's why these guys do that.
That son of a bitch.
But so for the for the Prancing Pony Podcast, like these guys, they just take the story, like the Silmarillion, and then the Hobbit, and then right now they're reading like chapter by chapter, and they're discussing portions of the chapter. It's kind of like an audiobook, but it can't be because legal issues.
Gotcha.
So they read like portions, and then they discuss, and they talk about like, hey, what was this like? And they draw from other parts of the Legendarium, and they draw from like other published material that was just supplemental, stuff that most people don't read, like Histories of Middle Earth, which is a huge like collection of stuff that Christopher Tolkien published that's only really beneficial if you just like if you want to know this behind the scenes kind of stuff, like these historical things. And that's why this Amazon series is based on what is available in the appendices of The Return of the King. So it's not actually based on anything in the Silmarillion or in the histories of Middle-earth. However, there's a lot of crossover, so it is, de facto, like there's going to be some stuff in the appendices that.
So the from my understanding, the Tolkien estate has told them that like they're fair. Anything in the Second Age is fair game, but they can't contradict anything that's already out, and they can't change storylines and change characters. To a certain extent, they can't like add, but just like what Peter Jackson did with The Hobbit, like you can things that were inferred but maybe not fleshed out, or things that could have possibly happened, they can still kind of go into, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it in the book The Hobbit, Legolas is never in the fucking book,
Right?
But they are in that city at that time, and it's like that was Legolas's father, so it makes sense that Legolas possibly could have been there, so they stuck him in there. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So it doesn't contradict anything. So that's kind of so they can kind of do that same thing.
So he's gonna be in, or his character is gonna be in Amazon show, or
no, I was just using that as an
Yeah.
example.
okay.
That is a good because there is a Legolas that I know of in the first age, but I don't know if it's the same one.
Oh.
I don't. Yeah.
Well, those
So,
fuckers
he's
live a long
thousands of
time.
years
Yeah.
old.
I mean,
I wouldn't
Legolas
doubt it.
could have been around in the Second Age. I'm not, and I'm sure if my Tolkien friends are listening, they'll be like, "Duh, don't you know this?" But I can't remember. I don't remember
kid.
when Legolas was
He's
born.
1,200 years old. Oh, he's barely a kid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
He
it
is.
Kid, goddamn.
Well, he's at least 2,500 years. Well, Elrond's at least 2,500 years
Oh,
old.
Elrond's super old.
Hubby?
Not L. Ron Hubbard.
You know what I'm talking about, Sam?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, supposedly
Elrond.
they. No, wait, never mind. I thought him and Tolkien knew each other. No, that's somebody else.
Yeah.
Go on.
Because
he was a Pulp Fiction artist.
Christopher
Pulp-
Lee knew Tolkien.
Not Pulp Fiction.
Yeah,
Pulp-
Christopher Lee did meet Tolkien.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Christopher
Oh,
Lee.
okay.
Yeah, the guy who played
Oh, really?
Saruman.
Yeah.
He knew Tolkien.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
the only member of the cast that actually had met
Wow,
him.
because he's so
Yeah, he's
old.
old as
Well,
fuck.
he's old,
He
but
fucking
yeah.
what a
He's-
badass.
He's
though,
fucking
man.
metal as fuck.
I know.
Yeah.
I was going to say those albums.
Yeah.
That's so cool. But
He played
him.
fucking Drac. We're not getting into that.
Yeah,
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 yeah.
He,
So,
I mean, he's amazing.
Rest in peace.
Yeah,
Amazing
R.I.P.
human being, man.
So the Second Age ends with the War of the Ring, but what's the build up to that war? Like, how do they figure? At what point do they figure out that like that Sauron was fucking them with these rings?
Yeah. Okay. So like I was saying, so Celebrimbor is definitely going to be a major factor in this series.
And
because
is that you think that's this guy? Let me pull it up.
No.
You think that's this guy on the right, or is that Elrond?
that's Elrond?
Okay.
That's yeah. Like that, I've read already that so
That
on the
forehead,
left.
though, boy.
yeah.
Yeah.
He looks like somebody. I just can't think of it. Like another famous actor. And I don't know, kind of like a Neil Patrick Harris vibe in a way.
Yeah, I get that. I get that from
in his
him.
eyes, He's definitely Doogie Howser right there.
Yeah,
that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I get that.
Slap a fucking lab coat on him.
and
And that's Doogie.
and Elrond is supposed to be
Or
Elrond
doctor's
is supposed to
jacket,
have the
whatever the
hands
fuck
of a
it is.
healer, and Neil Patrick Harris did play a doctor on TV.
Oh, there you go. See, you're making the connections. I like that.
All
There you
right,
go, that
but
makes
that's
sense.
definitely not Neil Patrick Harris, by the way.
Bullshit.
All right, so what's again back to the question? So Celebrimbor.
Damn. Are you a little drunk there, baby?
No, I don't know how to pronounce it.
Oh, okay.
yeah. I mean, it's a tongue twister. Even like so.
Celebrimbor.
Celebrimbor.
I'm starting
Celebrimbor.
to notice a pattern with fucking he just has these fucking tongue twisters.
He was a
man.
linguist.
Yeah.
The fucking linguist, you say.
He wrote and created the languages, multiple languages in the Lord of the Rings lore.
Damn, man.
The Elfish language is actually he fleshed it completely out. The Mordor, all that stuff. It's all like he's a linguist. That's what he did.
Man,
and he's a very cunning linguist.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you talk about a man who's really depth his imagination, like how deep he is in creativity, man.
Tim would punch me in the face had I not made that cunning linguist.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And so just
I
as
knew it was coming. Though.
yeah, just as a side note, like kudos, that was a great joke. But also, so the actress who plays Galadriel, she is a Welsh actress. Welsh, Yeah. Anyway, she's a Welsh actor. She can speak Welsh fluently.
Welshman.
Okay, I didn't know that was a separate language. Thanks.
Yeah.
There's like fucking thousands of them within like a 10-mile radius. But go on. In England, I've heard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, seriously.
There's more than that.
There's a shitload.
There's a whole country called Wales.
Like even just and just within that
He's talking
small-
about languages.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm sorry,
Not
languages.
Welsh
I'm
people.
sorry, not languages. I meant accents. Excuse me.
Oh, yeah,
accents.
yeah.
Accents.
Welsh
yeah.
is not an accent; it's an actual
Well, okay.
language.
Well, I know, but like, just lay off. All right.
Okay.
Fuck you.
Well,
right.
and I only bring that up
Please
because Tolkien used Welsh as as an inspiration for
Okay.
for one of his Elvish languages. So the fact that they have a native Welsh speaker speaking Elvish is almost like, she would probably be the best example. Like if she can nail the Elvish language, which Kate Blanchett did in Lord of the Rings, Hugo Weaving did with the pretty language, not the orc language.
Sorry.
I did my best.
But
Hire me.
the fact that
I know what I'm doing.
a native Welsh speaker is using her background. Presumably, I don't know.
Yeah.
I just know that they've hired a Welsh speaking actress.
I forget
to play an elf.
that's what we're supposed to do. If you're not, the same, you're not supposed to be doing. But anyway, that what's it called? I forgot where I was going with this.
Okay.
Anyway, so
Yeah,
back to what
continue.
we were saying. God damn it, Paul. Pay attention to your fucking sign.
That's what I'm here for.
Celebrimbor, that was the original question. Like the major events. Sorry, that was my tangent because I just wanted to shout out to Welsh.
It's gonna
cool ass
happen
language.
here.
But Celebrimbor created the three rings for the Elven Kings, and he taught Sauron how to make rings.
Okay.
And so Sauron, and he taught others how to make rings. And so then the 7 rings for the dwarves were created, the 9 rings for the men were created, and Celebrimbor finally realized something ain't right. And so he took the 3 rings for the elves, and
But he made those. Sauron didn't make those.
Celebrimbor made the 3 elven rings, and he took those and he was like, these something's not right. I'm gonna take these. I don't trust this guy Sauron. He had a different name at the time.
Gotcha.
That's the other thing, because Sauron translates to the abhorred one. So people didn't like that. He didn't like that name. Nobody liked to call him that. That was he went by a different name. So I'm sure in the TV show it's gonna be, or the Amazon series it's gonna be different. But so when he takes the 3 rings away, and then Sauron makes the other ring in Mount Doom. He does that in secret, like you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
Yeah, he does that in secret to control all the rings.
Okay.
But Celebrimbor took the 3 before
Which is another one.
any of that could happen.
Okay.
So the 9 are susceptible, the 7 are susceptible, but the 3 maybe, arguably, there's all this ring lore that a lot of Tolkien fans discuss and debate over. I would say the 3 elven rings cannot be corrupted by the 1 ring, but there's leeway there. However, so he takes them away, and that's sort of the impetus for the War of the Ring, because now he's got the 1 ring and he's trying to dominate everybody. He's trying to get the dwarves on his side. He's trying to get all these men on his side. He's trying to do all this stuff. He's trying to conquer everything. And
but there's some dwarf rings that go missing before the war. A couple of them go missing.
Well, yeah, the dwarf rings. They said that because all these rings.
There's a lot of shit that happens, Paul. You signed up for this episode.
No, I'm just laughing because I just this scene. Just when he's fucking and when they're coming up with the toilet in the Hobbit. Speak of this to no one.
Yeah, right.
Look at that guy's such a badass.
And yeah. And the dwarf, and that's the thing. Dwarves have always been used as a comedic relief in the movies. But in this regard, the 7 rings were intended to be these corrupting powers that would draw them to Sauron's side and make dwarves his servants. However, dwarves were created, like I mentioned earlier, created by this Vala. Valar is this plural, Vala is the singular. And so this Vala, his name is Aule, created the dwarves to be really tough and resilient. And so even though when they got the rings, they were like, I'm not, like they could not be corrupted by Sauron. Yeah. They became super greedy and they became, douchebags basically, but they couldn't.
The power, the sickness got to them.
They got
like explained in the Hobbit.
Exactly, in the Hobbit, like they got the dragon sickness, or not necessarily dragon, but they got like a lust for gold and everything. Yeah, they're very greedy, but they could not be wholly corrupted. They would not join Sauron. They only wanted shit for themselves.
Right. So it's like it's separate shit on their own, basically.
Yeah.
Fuck you. We'll do our shit bad on our terms, our way. Fuck you.
Exactly.
Fuck your terms.
Yeah.
That's a badass. I don't care if they're doing bad shit.
And
they're
so,
doing shit how they want to do it.
And so here's another little element that maybe the show will capture, maybe not. But so Aule was the Vala who created the dwarves, right? Like I said, Sauron was his pupil. Basically, he was a student of Aule.
So what corrupted him? Like, how did he get wrapped up with Melkor?
That's the thing. Like, Aule has this attribute of he wants to create, he wants to do things, and that's why he created the dwarves ahead of the elves and the men, and that's why he was like this. I mentioned earlier how. Excuse me.
Sorry.
The elves and the men were supposed to come first, and Aule was just like, I want the dwarves. These guys would be really cool. And then, he was reprimanded, and he was like, you shouldn't do that. He apologized. Aule is a good guy because he was like, I made a mistake. I'll correct this. However, his followers, like Sauron, are the kind of people who would no, why should I apologize? And so when Melkor was over there, and he was like, you can do some great things. For me, Sauron was like, gotcha. That's cool. I don't want to apologize for the shit that I do. I want to go work for you because you'll just let me do the shit that I want to do. And that's why Sauron became evil. And
man, I wonder. No, I don't know how long that book's been around.
So we're getting close to time. So I want to hit a couple of highlights here. So this is one of the things I want to talk about. We're having some internet issues, by the way, in case you didn't know. Like, the internet just dropped out on us, so we're not live streaming anymore. But we are still recording, so the audio will be up. There's been a lot of controversy, a lot of uproar from the Tolkien community about the casting decisions that they've made for this show. Specifically, some of the producers have said that if you didn't know, that there's a lot of elves that were cast as Black, Latino, or Asian. There's been a dwarf that was cast as a Black woman that was cast as a dwarf, and their comment on this was that they were casting the way that Tolkien would have. The way that they were casting to reflect the world as the way that it is, and the feedback from the Tolkien verse, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that all of these races of beings were completely fleshed out. Like, Tolkien, like there was reasonings behind everything, like the way he described them, and elves had this, these characteristics and things like that. So really, in Tolkien's universe, no, there couldn't have been Black, Latino, or Asian elves. Like, they're all the same. And one of the other things was dwarf women were supposed to resemble dwarf men with the beards. You know what I mean?
Really?
So, yeah. So here's the uproar is that, are we woke casting this series just for the sake of doing that? Or does it add actual value to the show?
Yeah, right.
So that's and do I have that right? I mean, because to me, this is my argument, and you're feel free to have your own opinion. Obviously, anybody can. My opinion on the subject of casting things like that, if it doesn't affect the character and their story in general, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, cast a black Spider-Man. It doesn't matter. Like, Peter Parker being white, black, Asian, Latino, whatever, it has nothing to do with that character and the way that their origins and their background are. It was always a story about a smart kid in a very lower class family in Brooklyn or the Bronx or Queens, sorry.
Yeah.
In Queens, you know, with his parents died. He's living with his aunt and uncle, you know, and gets these. That could be anybody, right?
Yeah.
That could be anybody. Superman could be anybody, you know, and he's an alien.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. But in this situation, I feel like it matters. And I feel like it matters that they've done this I have a problem with them doing this just to do it.
Yeah. I was going to say, that's my problem for anything that's going on and stuff's like, if you're doing it just to meet a quota or just to do it, that just seems terrible. Like, what having their merits and like people that can do the part, you know, go and do it. If they can back it up, like, I don't give a fuck what your skin tone is. If you can do it, do it.
But that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that, like,
that's a general response to anything in general.
Right.
But particularly this, I guess for me, I don't know. My thing is, like, I don't necessarily care about the race or whatever. Like, if they get it wrong or not necessarily for the characters, I'm more worried about it as a whole, as like how it's gonna be. Going back to, like I said, just being so used to Peter Jackson's version to whoever this version is. In general, let's just see how it's gonna be. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen until we actually see it. So that's really the only thing that's like I don't say concern, but like the only thing that's on my mind when I think of like when I'm gonna watch this, like, how is this gonna be overall? Like, what the experience, and like I don't really give a fuck about that.
Well,
just fucking woke and all that bullshit or whatever. But just I guess because like I've heard other people say like they just say, well, just keep it the way it is in the source material. Like, it just, as far as like the color, you know, like people like it.
I don't care about that. That's,
I guess people were saying.
So I'm not saying everybody.
But that's the diehard fans.
So this is what I'm saying. I'm not saying that everybody should be white. What I'm saying is that Tolkien described the elves as a fair race of people. So if you're going to say a fair race of people, make all of them that same characteristic.
Yeah.
If you're going to say, like, if you're going to cast one black dwarf, then all of them need to be black because they were all made from they were all created. There was no diversity in there. Like, you're talking about the very beginnings of a race of people.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If you're going to have the elves be black, then have them all be black.
Yeah.
If you're going to have them be Asian, have them all be Asian.
Yeah.
Because there is no diversity within that type of it's a different, you could call it not race of people, but species of character. You know what I mean?
I get you.
Now, when you get to the men, diversify the fuck out of them. If you want, because he doesn't really describe that in detail.
Yeah.
And you could have that kind of diversity, but
Right,
because you
that's
have
true.
short
Humans
lifespans,
is
yes,
what you
the
mean, the
humans.
yeah.
But elves, dwarves, those things need to be consistent across.
Yeah,
because they're not
I get
humans.
I get you. That makes sense.
Yeah,
because it's a different. Yeah, because they're humans and then difference.
And so you're right. Yeah, the Tolkien community has come out with that perspective, but I will also defend the Tolkien community a little bit because there's some complexity there where a lot of people are supportive of the casting decisions, and actually so let me kind of go back to what you like. So all the points you guys brought up. Number one, the beards. Yes, that was a legitimate thing for Peter Jackson to bring up in the movies. Like, do female dwarves have beards like men?
And that's they
Totally.
And not thinking about it now, the closest you would see is this hilarious scene when they're getting interrogated by the elves. And they're like, and they're one of them has a lock, and I forgot the character. And like, who is this?
Glowing.
That's
your
like
son?
that's me wife. You know, like, and like she's got a beard.
Yeah.
And then like, and who's this foul creature? That's me, wee lad.
Yeah.
Well, there's also
Gimli.
Every time, man.
Well, there's a scene. Well, there's a scene in Lord of the Rings, and maybe only in the extended version.
Yeah.
But where Gimli's talking to not Eomer's sister, Eowyn, and he's talking about dwarf women and things. He's He's like, dwarf women, that's led to the belief that there are no dwarf women.
Yeah.
And then she laughs and looks over at Aragorn, and he's like, it's because
the beard, right?
Oh, okay, yeah.
And that's why I say like it was a legitimate thing to bring up when the movie came out. However, and I'll give you guys this little like nugget of information here. There has been a recent publication that has clarified that issue. No dwarf women had beards. In fact, the movie had more beards than was necessary because Aragorn and people like him, like Boromir and Faramir, would not have had beards. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the people of Numenor and their descendants, so maybe Aragorn, because this is like thousands of years down the line, so maybe he did like whatever. But the people of Numenor would not have had beards
because they're fair skinned like the elves, and like the elves don't have beards.
No, not necessarily. What I was
it's a cultural thing, not a genetic thing.
Well, it could be. It's just that it was
society,
not. It was, it was not like kind of how I mentioned how Tolkien sort of modeled, or he used like other like histories to inspire his own like creation of the Numenorians. They're sort of based on ancient Egyptians who were mostly clean shaven or no beards at all.
Oh,
and so if you have like a dark skinned person, it would make more sense for all the Numenorian cast to actually be like some sort of like North African or Middle Eastern, like it would make a lot more sense for Numenorians to be cast by
so
like
fucking complicated.
Yeah.
Like, man, just what happened?
And to the point of like the elves, there are like, so the elves and the dwarves were created together, I guess, in a way. But the seven fathers of the dwarves kind of originated in their own places, their own times, their own like they did. So there are different types of dwarves, different types of elves, all over the place because whenever they woke up, they kind of found their own calling. They went their own way, and that's kind of like an origin myth for our own evolution. We as humans, we adapted and we evolved into different physiologies. Sure. And so that'd be the same case. You're dealing with elves who, like, I mean, remember in the movie, Gollum found the ring, and he crawls. He's a normal, like, hobbit-looking creature.
Yeah, before he's like corrupted.
But then
for 500 years.
Yeah, and it's not just the ring.
Really, that long?
Yeah, 500 years after he found the ring.
Fucking
it's not just the ring that's doing that to him. It's the fact that he is living underground. He becomes pale. His eyes grow accustomed.
Yeah.
He literally
it's like evolving. Yeah.
And so imagine when you are a race like the elves who can live for eternity, basically.
But
they can evolve during that time. Depending on their.
Okay. I mean they're not human, so you can't argue human genetics against that. So sure.
Yeah.
I mean that's
they just like they can see themselves changing. They'd be like, "Damn, this has been 500 years or whatever."
Yeah, you make a good point. Like a good analogy, saying like there's species. You forget, like you're thinking like they're human, but they're not. Like they're different.
They're witnessing their own change, their own adaptation.
Yeah.
They didn't even realize that they're doing this, but they're like, "Holy shit, I'm turning darker, or I'm doing whatever."
And that would be from
Amanda stir fry eyes.
Yeah. Oh geez. Okay.
Sorry.
All right. And on that note, I think we've. Is there any other basis we need to cover? I mean, there's obviously a ton of Lord of the Rings lore that we could dive into.
A lot of shit.
I know. We got time.
I've been waiting for that.
What?
I will say this one thing. Like so I'll end on a high note here by saying that when I saw the trailer for the Amazon series, I was slightly disheartened because I was like, not because of the casting decisions or anything like that. It was because there's so much CGI. Yeah. And I was like, one of the big things that I had, one of the big issues that I had with The Hobbit was like just way too much CGI.
Oh yeah.
But
it's cheaper.
Yeah, but then I learned that opening sequence where they're showing like the river of
it's not CGI.
None of that is CGI. Yeah. And I was like, holy shit.
That was a good start.
if they can do that, then they are. Yeah.
But then they revealed the trailer and showed that shitload of CGI. I was like, what the fuck was that?
Okay, no. But they're using. So what they're using is they're using the technology that they came up with and invented for the Mandalorian. That big LED screen, I forget what they call it, but where you can they use the Real Engine from the video games.
Yeah, real engine. Yeah,
that changes perspective on the screens around it based on the angle of the camera. So it's not CGI. It's like it's really like they make that world and they put it on the LED screens around them. So you're actually in it and they can interact with it. And it changes and stuff like that based on where the camera is, so that it actually looks real. That's what they did with most of the Mandalorian season 1.
That's good for the actors too.
That's why
because they can see what's going on.
That's why it looks like if you watch The Mandalorian, like they interact with stuff, and you're like, holy shit, man, that must have been. And when you go back and look, and you're like, no, all that's fucking fake. There's like one little hut and everything else is this dome of LED screens.
Yeah.
And you're like, holy shit, they're not in Tunisia filming this?
Yeah, they're not in Tunisia?
That's where they film the Tatooine scenes. Is in Tunisia.
Yeah, they were trying to set up the Skywalker not the Skywalker Ranch.
Why not?
Trying to set that up as a World Heritage site, as an archaeological protected
Oh, really?
area.
Because they're still there, right? The Mos Espa and Mos Eisley that they built out in the desert.
Not just that, but the Lars Ranch, the Owen Lars Ranch, where Luke grew up.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah, they want to keep that as like a
World Heritage site. That'd be cool. I'd go see it.
Yeah.
And on that note, I have been Rob. That's fucking Paul. Sam.
I am.
Thanks for coming out and hanging out with us and talking Lord of the Rings. Like, we should probably do another one of these. I promise next time you come on, Paul will not be here.
Way more shit about it.
I will not tell Paul about it so that he's not here, so that we can actually have a good discussion about this.
Doesn't matter. He can do what he can. It's just you're not going to stop me.
All right. We'll catch you guys on the next one.
All right.
This is where we talk shit over Paul's music. If you listen to it, Paul wrote this song.
What's the intro music?
I didn't write that. Jacob hired somebody.
Jacob hired somebody. Yeah, Paul actually wrote this, and I talk shit on it, but I don't have anything that I've written. That's what my wife says all the time. Like, where's your fucking band? You know what I mean? I didn't write any fucking music. You know what I mean?
Thanks, Melissa.
I mean, if it was better, we wouldn't talk shit. Like how I played it at the Eureka Heights thing for everybody to hear. And Tim was like, oh, I got to talk shit on it.
Yeah, that's right. He did say that.